The Galactic Council had always seen Earth as a weak and insignificant planet. For years they had watched from afar, believing that humans would never pose a threat. Earth was a small planet, surrounded by others that were more advanced and powerful. The Council believed that humanity's technology and military strength were nothing compared to the vast fleets and weapons of the galaxy's greatest powers. But they were wrong. One fateful morning, the Galactic Council was shocked to its core. Their massive state-of-the-art space stations and fleets, designed to keep the galaxy's peace, suddenly went dark. Communication was cut off. The Council leaders sat in their grand chambers, puzzled and anxious. How could this happen? The stations had been equipped with the most advanced shields, and their forces were the best trained in the galaxy. Yet no one could explain what was going on. As the minutes ticked by, a deep sense of panic spread through the ranks of the Galactic Council. Then came the report. Earth had launched an attack. At first it seemed like a mistake, a glitch in their systems. Earth was nothing more than a small, isolated planet, far from the reach of the Galactic Council's forces. There was no way they could have done anything to harm the mighty Council. But as the reports continued to flood in, the truth became clear. Earth had attacked, and they were not going down without a fight. The Council scrambled to understand how this was possible. They sent scouts to Earth's atmosphere and discovered something that made them shiver in fear. Earth had somehow unlocked technology far beyond anything the Council had expected. Their ships were primitive compared to those of the Galactic Council, but they were fast, unpredictable, and powerful. The humans had developed a new form of weaponry, and it was causing chaos across the galaxy. Back on Earth, humans were just beginning to realize the scale of what they had done. The sudden attack had caught many by surprise, but it was exactly what the Earth's leaders had planned. The world had been preparing for this moment for years, knowing that one day they would have to fight back. All the nations, once divided by borders and conflicts, had come together under one banner. The strength of humanity lay not just in their technology, but in their unity. The Council had no idea that Earth's leaders had secretly been developing a new form of energy, one that could power ships and weapons in ways they never imagined. It wasn't just about better technology. It was about Earth's ability to think outside the box. While the rest of the galaxy relied on brute force and advanced machinery, Earth had learned to use their ingenuity, their creativity, and their will to survive. The humans had begun to fight back in ways the Council couldn't understand. Every move Earth made seemed to surprise them. Their ships didn't fight the same way other ships did. They moved quickly, dodging attacks and striking with precision. The Council's best fleet commanders found themselves outmatched by Earth's unpredictable tactics. At the heart of this mysterious attack was a human force unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. They were determined, ready to give everything to protect their home. And no one in the Council had anticipated that Earth, once seen as an easy target, would strike first. The Galactic Council, still in shock, began to respond. They sent their finest commanders and fleets to Earth's solar system, believing they could quickly squash the rebellion. But as they prepared for battle, something strange happened. Earth's forces were not just waiting for them. They were ready. The Council commanders soon realized they had underestimated Earth's preparation. Earth's forces had studied every possible move the Galactic Council might make, and had countered it in ways that seemed almost impossible. They had not just built weapons, they had built a strategy. And that strategy was working. But the biggest surprise of all was how quickly Earth's people rallied. It wasn't just the military that stood united. It was everyone. Civilians, scientists, engineers, and leaders were all working together to fight back. This wasn't just a military conflict. This was the entire planet standing up to an enemy that had always looked down on them. Humans had finally realized that they weren't as weak as they had been told. They weren't helpless. They were powerful. And then, just when it seemed like Earth's forces might actually win, something else happened. The Galactic Council in all its might couldn't figure out why Earth had done it. Why had they attacked so suddenly without warning? What had sparked this? They needed answers, and they needed them fast. As the battle intensified, the Council, leaders feared one thing above all. If Earth could strike this hard, what else were they capable of? What had they discovered that the rest of the galaxy hadn't? The mystery of Earth's sudden rise to power was just beginning to unfold. The question on everyone's mind was, how far would Earth go to protect itself? The Council was about to find out, and they weren't prepared for what came next. The leaders of Earth had done something that no one had thought possible. They had united, not just as nations, but as one force determined to protect their planet. For centuries, humanity had been divided by borders, resources, and conflicts. But when the Galactic Council's attack on Earth became imminent, everything changed. People put aside their differences, their past grudges, and came together for one purpose: to fight for their survival. It all began with a series of secret meetings. World leaders, scientists, and military commanders met in hidden locations, their faces grim, their hearts full of uncertainty. They knew the Council's forces were vast, and they had never faced anything like it. But they also knew that Earth had something the Council could not anticipate: the will to fight. The first step was to ensure that every human, from the young to the old, from the scientist to the farmer, understood the gravity of the situation. Earth needed everyone, every resource, every mind working towards one goal. Messages were sent out to the masses, urging them to do their part. People rallied, volunteers lined up to serve, and millions began to work towards building Earth's defense. At the same time, Earth's brightest minds were hard at work, focusing on one thing: creating the kind of technology that could take on the might of the Galactic Council. Humans had always been creative, able to find solutions when others saw only problems. Now that creativity was being channeled into one singular purpose: to build weapons and ships that could challenge the Council's power. The Earth government set up secret labs, hidden away in underground bunkers, where scientists worked tirelessly, day and night. They researched alien technology, dissected old blueprints, and developed innovations that no one had ever imagined. The first breakthroughs came from Earth's natural resources. Materials that had always been thought of as weak were now transformed into powerful components. The Earth scientists had discovered ways to turn their planet's natural environment into a weapon. But the true turning point came when Earth's engineers found something that changed everything: a new energy source. It was unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. Earth's scientists had unlocked the power to create ships that moved faster than anything in the galaxy, and weapons that could fire with incredible precision. It was a power hidden in the very heart of Earth, buried deep beneath the surface. No one had known it was there, but now it was Earth's most guarded secret. As Earth's leaders prepared their forces, the Galactic Council remained oblivious to the preparations happening on the small blue planet. Their arrogance had blinded them. They had thought Earth would fall easily under their rule. Now the Council would soon learn how wrong they were. The first sign of what was to come happened one evening, when Earth's forces launched their first wave. The Galactic Council's defense systems were caught completely off guard. Earth's new ships appeared out of nowhere, and their attacks were swift and precise. The first few hits were enough to cause serious damage. The Council's fleet had been completely unprepared for this kind of offensive. They had assumed the humans would be disorganized, that their military would be weak. But what they hadn't counted on was Earth's unity and resourcefulness. Each ship that Earth sent into space carried the hopes and dreams of a planet united in purpose. The ships were small compared to the massive fleets of the Council, but they were faster and more maneuverable. Earth's pilots, trained by the best engineers and military minds, fought with a ferocity born from desperation. Each pilot knew they weren't just fighting for a country or a cause. They were fighting for the future of their entire species. And then, as Earth's forces gained ground, something unexpected happened. The Galactic Council began to realize that they were facing something new, something different. They had underestimated Earth's power and unity, and now they were starting to panic. Ships from all across the galaxy, once under the command of the Galactic Council, started to break ranks. Some ships, even large ones, began to retreat. Some of the soldiers began to question their leaders. Earth had sparked something in them, something they couldn't ignore. The Galactic Council's response was swift. They called in reinforcements from across the galaxy, bringing in their most powerful fleets. They sent their strongest commanders to Earth, prepared to crush the rebellion once and for all. But they had no idea that Earth was ready for them. Earth's forces weren't just defending themselves, they were fighting back with a clear strategy. Every move they made, every tactic they used, had been carefully planned. The weapons Earth had developed were not just powerful, they were unpredictable. The Galactic Council had prepared for war in a way they always had, but Earth was doing something different. They were thinking ahead, adapting, and surprising them at every turn. As the battle raged on, both sides realized that the stakes were higher than anyone had imagined. Earth wasn't just fighting for survival anymore, it was fighting for its place in the galaxy. And the Galactic Council? They were beginning to realize that their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating Earth's military power. It was underestimating Earth's spirit. Humans had proven that when they come together, there is no force in the galaxy that can stand in their way. But despite Earth's advances, the battle was far from over. The Council had not yet shown all their cards, and they would not back down without a fight. The true test of Earth's will was just beginning. As the battle between Earth and the Galactic Council intensified, the whole galaxy watched in disbelief. The Council, once seen as an unshakable force, now found itself in a precarious position. Earth's sudden, unprecedented pushback had not only taken them by surprise, it had left them scrambling for answers. But as Earth's forces grew stronger, the Council began to realize something far more troubling. Earth was not just fighting to survive, they were fighting to be free. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. What had started as a defense effort had quickly turned into a rallying cry for every human across the planet. The entire world had united, not just for survival, but for something greater. People from all walks of life, scientists, teachers, farmers, engineers, had become a part of something much bigger than themselves. The sense of unity and purpose was unlike anything humanity had ever known. The Council, however, had underestimated how deeply this fight had awakened something inside the people of Earth. It wasn't just about repelling an invading force. It was about proving that no one, not even the most powerful empire in the galaxy, could dictate humanity's fate. Earth's leaders, once faced with division and distrust, now saw their people working together as never before. With each passing day, Earth's defenses grew stronger. The human-built ships had been upgraded with advanced technology, using the energy sources they had discovered deep beneath the Earth's surface. These ships, though smaller and seemingly weaker compared to the massive ships of the Galactic Council, had one key advantage. They were unpredictable. They used tactics and maneuvers that the Council had never encountered before, exploiting every weakness in the Council's designs. The Galactic Council's top commanders, once confident that victory was within their grasp, now found themselves struggling to keep up with the relentless pace of Earth's ingenuity. They had prepared for a conventional war, a war of superior strength and numbers. But Earth had changed the game. The humans were fighting a war of brains over brawn. Their unexpected methods and new technologies kept the Council on the defensive. But it wasn't just the technology that made Earth's resistance so formidable. It was the human spirit, the unbreakable resolve to protect their home. The soldiers fighting for Earth weren't just soldiers. They were parents, children, workers, and citizens. Every person on Earth had a stake in this fight, and that made them powerful. They fought not because they were told to, but because they believed in something greater than themselves, the future of their planet and their freedom. The Council's first reaction was to send more forces, larger, more heavily, armored fleets hoping to crush Earth's growing resistance with sheer power. But the humans were ready. Earth's new defensive technologies were not just designed to protect, but to surprise. And that's exactly what they did. Earth's ships maneuvered with startling speed, outflanking and outsmarting the much larger and more powerful Council fleets. For every attack the Council made, Earth responded with a well-planned counterstrike. As the conflict wore on, the Council started to panic. They had never faced an enemy like this before. The humans had no fear. They fought with an intensity that shook even the Council's hardened commanders. And it wasn't just the military that posed a threat to the Council. The scientists on Earth had made another unexpected breakthrough. They had developed a new form of communication, one that was impossible to intercept or jam. This allowed Earth to coordinate their forces with incredible precision, and it also allowed them to spread their message of defiance across the galaxy. Slowly but surely, more planets began to listen. First, it was a few isolated systems, planets, that had always felt the heavy hand of the Galactic Council. Then it was more. The Council's authority, once absolute, began to crumble as more and more worlds began to question whether the Galactic Council's rule was really what was best for them. Back on Earth, the tension was palpable. Every new victory was a step closer to something greater, but every day brought new risks. Earth's forces were growing, but so was the threat. The Council had not yet shown its full strength, and the humans knew that the hardest part of the war was yet to come. Despite the growing optimism, there was a lingering fear. What would happen if the Council called upon their most devastating weapon? What would happen if they escalated the conflict to a level beyond anything Earth had prepared for? The fear of the unknown weighed heavily on everyone's minds. But one thing was certain: Earth was not going to back down. Not now, not ever. The battle had only just begun, and the true test of humanity's strength was still ahead. The Council, once so sure of their power, now had to face the unthinkable. A planet they had considered insignificant was fighting back, and winning. With every passing day, the balance of power was shifting. The Council's grip on the galaxy was slipping, and Earth was showing them that no matter how vast their empire, there was one thing the Galactic Council could never control: the heart of humanity. As Earth continued its fight, the galaxy began to look at humanity in a new light. No longer just a planet of simple creatures, Earth was becoming a symbol of resistance, of strength, and of hope. And the Galactic Council? They were beginning to realize that this war was not just a fight for Earth. It was a fight for the future of the entire galaxy. As the battle against the Galactic Council raged on, Earth's resistance was no longer just a rebellion. It had become a movement, a symbol of defiance that echoed across the stars. The once insurmountable power of the Galactic Council was now being challenged by an unexpected enemy. A small, seemingly insignificant planet in the far reaches of the galaxy. But what the Council failed to realize was that Earth's strength wasn't just in its weapons or its technology. It was in its people. On Earth, the atmosphere was electric. People from every corner of the planet had come together, working tirelessly to build new ships, weapons, and defenses. Nations, once divided by their differences, had become a united front, sharing knowledge and resources in a way that had never been seen before. Scientists, engineers, and everyday citizens had become heroes, working side by side to ensure their planet's survival. But now, as Earth's forces gained ground, the stakes had never been higher. The Galactic Council, shaken by the unexpected resilience of Earth, had started to regroup, pulling together their most powerful fleets. They knew that Earth was not only a threat to their control over the galaxy, it was a challenge to their very authority. The Council's leaders, accustomed to ruling with an iron fist, could not fathom how a single planet had managed to turn the tables on them. The arrogance that had led them to believe they could easily subdue Earth was now their greatest weakness. In the wake of each new skirmish, the Council's fear began to spread. Their once unshakable confidence faltered as they saw more and more systems joining Earth's cause. The people of the galaxy, who had long been under the Council's rule, were beginning to question their leaders. The more the Council tried to quell the uprising, the more it seemed to fuel the fire of rebellion. And in the heart of Earth's forces, the belief that they could not only defend their planet but reshape the future of the galaxy began to grow stronger. But despite these victories, Earth knew they could not rest. The Council's response would be swift and brutal, and their next move would be crucial. Earth's leaders knew that they had to stay one step ahead. New technologies were developed in secret labs deep beneath the Earth's surface. innovations that would tip the scales even further in their favor. But Earth also needed more than just new weapons. They needed allies. And as the rebellion spread, Earth began to make contact with other planets, reaching out to those who had suffered under the Council's rule. The first response came from a planet on the fringes of Council territory, a world that had long been oppressed and silenced. They had heard of Earth's resistance, and for the first time in centuries, they felt a glimmer of hope. The leaders of this planet contacted Earth, offering not only support but a promise of solidarity. Soon, other planets followed, each one eager to break free from the Council's grip. The rebellion was no longer just a dream, it was becoming a reality. Earth's forces, now bolstered by their newfound allies, launched a new offensive. It was a calculated move, designed to push the Council's forces back and send a message to the rest of the galaxy. This wasn't just Earth fighting to survive anymore. It was a war for freedom, for the future of every world under the Council's control. And with each new victory, the resistance grew stronger, more organized, and more determined. The Galactic Council, now faced with a threat they had never expected, was beginning to unravel. Their once unassailable fleets were being outmaneuvered, their planets turned against them. The Council's leaders, unable to comprehend how this rebellion had gained so much ground, were forced to take drastic measures. But every move they made seemed to only push more systems to Earth's side. The galaxy was starting to realize something that had been kept hidden for so long. The Council's power wasn't as absolute as they had claimed. In the midst of this growing rebellion, Earth's leaders knew that the hardest part was yet to come. The Galactic Council had not yet shown its full strength, and it was only a matter of time before they called in their most powerful weapons, those that could destroy entire worlds. Earth's forces were ready, but the stakes had never been higher. The Council would not give up their dominance without a fight, and Earth had to be prepared for whatever came next. But even as Earth faced its greatest challenge, the people of the planet remained united. The same spirit that had first united them to defend their home now fueled their resolve to shape the future of the galaxy. Earth had proven that when united, they were unstoppable. The hope that had started as a small flicker now burned bright, lighting the way for every world that dreamed of freedom. As the Council's fleets loomed ever closer, Earth's forces prepared for the most decisive battle yet. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for the freedom of every system, every planet, every being that had suffered under the rule of the Galactic Council. Earth's message was clear. They would not be ruled. They would not be conquered. And they would fight until the stars themselves trembled before their will. The future of the galaxy now rested in the hands of those who dared to challenge the mighty Galactic Council. And as Earth's forces prepared for what lay ahead, one thing was certain: the fight for freedom was just beginning. The tension in the galaxy was now palpable. The Galactic Council, once a symbol of control and domination, found themselves in a battle they never anticipated, against a force they thought insignificant. Earth, a planet they had considered weak and primitive, had become the epicenter of a revolution that was sweeping through the stars. As the conflict raged on, both sides knew that the outcome of this war would shape the future of the galaxy for centuries to come. Back on Earth, the people had rallied together like never before. Scientists, engineers, military leaders, and civilians had all played a crucial role in developing new strategies and technologies to outsmart the Council. What had begun as a defense effort had quickly evolved into a full-scale revolution. But Earth's leaders knew that the true test was still ahead. How long could they keep this momentum going before the Council unleashed its full force? Council, now desperate to regain control, had started making more drastic moves. They had begun sending fleets of reinforcements, overwhelming in number, hoping to crush Earth's resistance once and for all. Yet despite their sheer numbers, Earth's forces had adapted in ways the Council had never anticipated. They had learned to use the environment to their advantage, hiding in the shadows of asteroid fields, attacking from unexpected angles, and using their smaller, more agile ships to outmaneuver the larger, slower ships of the Council. What the Galactic Council hadn't counted on was the unyielding spirit of humanity. With each victory, Earth's resolve grew stronger, and the galaxy watched in awe as this small planet, once deemed insignificant, fought back with relentless determination. The message spread across the stars. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. Earth was a force to be reckoned with. However, as the tide of battle seemed to be turning in Earth's favor, a darker reality began to emerge. The Galactic Council was not as disorganized as Earth had hoped. Behind their vast fleets, there was a network of spies, covert operatives, and intelligence officers that had been working for years to infiltrate the resistance. Earth had won many battles, but the Council had eyes everywhere. They were aware of Earth's every move, and they were learning from every mistake. One of Earth's greatest strengths, the unpredictability of their tactics, was starting to work against them. The Council, now aware of how Earth's forces operated, had started to anticipate their next moves. Earth's leaders were quick to realize that their ingenuity alone wouldn't be enough to win the war. They needed to outthink the Council, not just outfight them. In a hidden bunker beneath the surface of Earth, a group of the planet's brightest minds gathered. Their task was clear. They had to create a new plan, something so unexpected that the Council wouldn't know how to respond. They had to come up with a strategy that would not only protect Earth, but would also unite the galaxy against the Council's tyranny. What followed was a series of daring operations, each one more ambitious than the last. Earth's forces began infiltrating Council strongholds, planting seeds of doubt among the soldiers stationed on distant planets. Messages began circulating, urging people in the far reaches of the galaxy to rise up against the Council. Slowly, but surely the rebellion was gaining ground, and Earth wasn't fighting alone anymore. But the Council's reaction was swift. As word of these uprisings spread, the Council retaliated with the full weight of their military might. Earth's forces knew that the next phase of the war would be crucial. With the Council preparing for an all-out assault, Earth had no choice but to gamble everything on a bold new plan. The fate of the galaxy was hanging in the balance, and the humans knew that they had to act quickly before the Council could respond. This was no longer a war for survival. It was a war for freedom, for the future of the entire galaxy. In the final days leading up to the pivotal battle, Earth's leaders held a secret summit with their newfound allies. Together they discussed their strategy, a coordinated strike that would hit the heart of the Galactic Council's power. They knew that this was their chance to strike a decisive blow. If they succeeded, the Council would be forced to rethink their control over the galaxy. If they failed, Earth and its allies would face utter destruction. The decision was made. The operation was set into motion. As the resistance prepared for the most important battle of their lives, the air was thick with anticipation. The soldiers, pilots, engineers, and civilians, all of them knew what was at stake. The human spirit, forged through generations of struggle and perseverance, was now their greatest weapon. No matter the odds, they were ready to face whatever the Galactic Council had in store for them. But there was one thing Earth's leaders could not predict: the unexpected turn of events that would shake the very foundation of the war. Earth was about to reveal a secret weapon that the Council had no defense against, something so advanced, so revolutionary, that it would forever change the balance of power in the galaxy. It was a weapon of hope, of freedom, and above all, of unity. As the final preparations were made and the countdown to battle began, one truth was clear: Earth was no longer just fighting for itself. It was fighting for every planet that had suffered under the tyranny of the Galactic Council, and for every civilization that had dreamed of a future where they were free. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was the fight for a new galaxy, a galaxy where the people, not the empire, held the power, and Earth would not back down. Not now, not ever. The final battle was approaching, and the galaxy held its breath. Across the vast expanse of space, star systems that had long been under the iron grip of the Galactic Council were watching closely. The events on Earth had sparked a hope that had never existed before, a hope for freedom, for change, for a future where the will of the people could shape their own destiny. But Earth's struggle was far from over. The fate of the galaxy rested on the shoulders of a single planet, and the outcome of this war would determine whether or not that hope could be realized. Earth's forces were ready, but so was the Galactic Council. Their fleets, vast and seemingly unstoppable, were preparing for the final push. The Council had no intention of letting Earth's rebellion continue any longer. They had underestimated Earth once, but now they had learned their lesson. Earth's ingenuity, their creativity, their determination, these were things the Council could not replicate. And that, in the end, had been their greatest mistake. In the hidden war rooms beneath the surface of Earth, leaders gathered to make the final decisions. They had all played their part in this revolution, and now it was time to unite their forces in one final, all-out assault. But Earth's leaders knew they could not win this fight alone. They needed the support of their allies, the star systems that had joined their cause. The rebellion was no longer just Earth's struggle. It was a galaxy-wide movement, one that would either succeed in reshaping the future or be crushed under the weight of the Council's might. The night before the final battle, Earth's leaders stood together, staring out into the stars. They had come so far, and yet the road ahead seemed uncertain. Their plans were set, their forces prepared, but no one could predict the outcome of such a monumental clash. They knew the stakes were higher than ever before. If they lost, Earth would fall, and the rebellion would be snuffed out. But if they won, they would change the course of history. As dawn broke across Earth, the first wave of ships began to take off. Across the globe, millions of people watched the skies, waiting to see if this would be the day their world changed forever. Children, parents, soldiers, and civilians, all of them were bound together by a single goal: to secure a future of freedom for every being in the galaxy. No longer would they be subjects to the whims of an empire. No longer would they live in fear of the Council's power. The first wave of Earth's ships made their way into deep space, flanked by their allies. The rebellion's fleet was smaller than the Council's, but it was faster, more maneuverable, and determined. As they neared the Council's fortress world, the tension was palpable. Each member of the fleet knew this would be the hardest battle of their lives. But as the countdown to battle began, something extraordinary happened. The resistance forces from every corner of the galaxy joined their voices together. Messages of unity, of hope, of defiance spread across every communication channel, reaching every star system that had ever suffered under the Council's rule. It wasn't just a fleet of ships heading into battle. It was the collective will of the galaxy itself. Every planet that had joined Earth's rebellion sent their support, and Earth's forces stood not as a single planet, but as a united front representing countless worlds. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was united, not under the rule of an empire, but under the shared desire for freedom. As the battle began, the shockwaves of the first strikes reverberated across space. The Council's ships, immense and intimidating, clashed against the smaller, more agile resistance forces. The soundless explosions lit up the void as Earth's fighters darted in and out of the fray, taking down Council ships with unmatched precision. Every movement, every strike, was a testament to the tireless efforts of Earth's people and their allies. They were no longer fighting for mere survival. They were fighting for a future that had been denied to them for far too long. But even as the battle unfolded, Earth's leaders knew that the key to victory lay in a single, decisive move: to cripple the Council's ability to control the galaxy. They had developed a weapon, one that could disrupt the very communication networks that held the Council's fleets together. If they succeeded, the Council's military forces would be thrown into chaos, unable to coordinate their attacks. The rebellion would have a fighting chance. With that weapon in place, Earth's forces launched a final push. The odds were steep, but the will of the galaxy was behind them. As the Resistance's ships flew toward the heart of the Council's fleet, the moment of truth arrived. The fate of the galaxy hung on a razor's edge. Could Earth, with all its ingenuity and resolve, overcome the might of the Galactic Council? The weapon was deployed, and in an instant, the Council's communications were severed. Ships that had once been in perfect formation now drifted aimlessly, unable to respond to commands. Chaos erupted within the Council's ranks, and the tide of the battle began to turn in favor of the Resistance. It wasn't just a victory for Earth, it was a victory for every world that had ever dreamed of freedom. The Council's grip on the galaxy was finally loosening, and the hope that Earth had sparked in the hearts of millions was becoming a reality. With the final strike, the rebellion scored its greatest victory yet. The Galactic Council, defeated, its power shattered, beyond repair. The galaxy, once divided by the rule of the Council, was now free to determine its own future. Earth had led the charge, but it was the collective strength of all the liberated systems that had brought this new era into being. As the dust settled and the final echoes of battle faded, one truth remained. The fight for freedom had been won. And Earth, against all odds, had changed the galaxy forever. Now the galaxy was theirs to rebuild, together.